Appreciate everybody being here today. We're here to talk about fandom and the power of a brand standing behind their community to make it as global and impactful as possible.
Hot dog, not ice cream.
Hot dog, not ice cream. That's right. Since 2003, Call of Duty has generated $30 billion, and that is basically on the backs of an incredibly passionate, loyal, diverse, global fan base. And so we're going to talk about how Call of Duty and Activision at large have sparked that, leaned into that, embraced it to make sure that the fan base is always seen, heard, and felt. So with that, my name is Jason Apfelroth. I'm the Director of New Business at OS Studios, joined by Kecia Christiansen, Director of Experiential Marketing from Activision. Thanks for jumping on.
Thank you. So happy to be here, and jazzed to be sitting next to you.
That's right.
So as Jason said, I'm Kecia. I lead up the experiential marketing team at Activision. And today we're going to talk about Call of Duty. There's a lot of passion in our community, and there should be. We make video games, right? These are fun things that we do. Like, there should be a lot of passion, and leaning into that passion and talking about that passion is a little bit about what we're going to get into today. I always kind of talking about passion. Yeah. I always kind of think back to when I first started out in my career. I came up through Disney. So I was with Disney for 12 years, started the Run Disney brand of events. And for those of you that don't know, that's like marathons and half marathons that take place at the Walt Disney theme parks around the world. My point in saying all this is that as I was coming up and starting out, growing up in my career with Run Disney and with Disney at large, the loyalty to brand, the passion to brand is what really came through to me as a young marketer. I carry that with me wherever I go, and I'll give you a small anecdote. At the finish line of these races that we were producing, I would stand at the finish line, and never did I stand at a finish line where I didn't start crying. Why? Because I knew that every single person crossing that finish line was doing it for a reason, for their own reason, which was different than your reason. And I was a part of that, right? I was helping someone fulfill a dream. I was helping someone achieve a record or fight cancer or raise money, or I was a part of that as a marketer. And so I carry that thought with me throughout my career, and I certainly adapt that to Call of Duty because the passion, the passion and love for our game and the passion of our community is the same. And we have the responsibility to use that, forum that we have as our community and speak to our players and speak to our community with that same passion. So a little bit about me. Sorry, I'm long-winded.
No, I just love that story. I remember when we were talking about it before, you said every step of those races is a new journey, is a different journey. And I think creating with fandom first is a key part of obviously your initiative, and it's what we have done for so long at OS Studios is whenever we have an opportunity, the very first thing that we do is we bring our fans together. We talk about their respect for an IP, how they want it to show up, what they should be doing, what will make this an unforgettable moment for a fan base. And what we find a lot of times is that partners like Activision, if that's the first step, it makes the most resonant brand activations. It makes the most impactful event for your fan base, and it just delivers much more scale. And so it's sort of it leads into sort of this larger conversation of we're going to talk about some of those bigger stats in a second, but Call of Duty has found a way to transcend culture. And a lot of times you hear the separation of church and state of gaming culture and culture, and a lot of times they're synonymous. And working with a brand like Call of Duty, whether you're talking about a full book of portfolio of comics, of assets, of games, of different modes, it's just sort of this whole arc. And you're talking about upper echelon of like Disney, Marvel, and Call of Duty. That's big time company to be putting alongside a video game. To your point, I'd like your thought on that cultural mainstream takeover, for lack of a better phrase, that Call of Duty has been a part of for so long.
It's true. It's gaming culture is culture. It transcends into every bit of life, right? From brands that we partner with, into fashion, into music, into mainstream entertainment, if you will. I mean, this is a universe of gaming, certainly, but it is, so much more than just the game on the screen. We're taking, our community along with us for the ride and bringing them not only fun experiences in the game, but also out of the game and in daily life, and like living Call of Duty as a life, as a brand, as a experience, right. As a part of their culture.
Yeah, live the brand.
Yes.
Live the brand. There are huge numbers on this screen over here. 500 million units sold, 100 million active players per month, one of the biggest IPs in the entire world. What's your thought on that universe of Call of Duty and sort of the positioning of releasing of titles, of different modes, of sort of that year in, year out cadence that has been a hallmark of the game?
It definitely sets us apart. It is unique. It is, not everyone launches a major title or movie within a franchise, if you will, every year. And we have been doing this every year for the last 20 plus years. And that, the slide before, that's 500 million, units sold, you might say like, oh, that sounds good. That sounds like a good number. Is that a good number? This is the number, right? 16 consecutive years we're the number one selling franchise. That's important because we have to reinvigorate and we have to re-energize and we have to, reconnect with our community every year. It's an ongoing process, right? So like as Jason was saying, and it's also not just the premium title. It's our premium title. Sure, that drives business, but it's also our free-to-play game. That's where we get, large amounts of people into our game to experience our game sometimes for the first time. It's our mobile community, for folks that are playing on the go or are not console or PC players. And so when we look at these numbers and we think about, not only are we launching a premium title every year, we've got 365 always-on content that needs to evolve and be produced and be fun and engaging at the end of the day.
Well, that's on top of all the drops and the product notes and the merch. Like this whole world of consistent access to the community is incredible.
Yes.
That leads me to, you could flip the side, that leads me to Call of Duty Next.
Right. And so so how do we get those numbers and how do we, stay the number one, game year over year for 16 consecutive years? Well, through, fun and innovating and remarkable marketing, certainly. That's why we're all here in this room, is because that's what all of our jobs are in different ways. But so a few years ago, we've always sort of done the normal sort of like product rollout ahead of our launch, our product reviews, where we talk about our new game every year. And about 3 years ago, we had a lot to say. We had a lot to say because we were a couple years into our free-to-play game. Obviously, we had our premium title. We were dropping mobile. There was a lot of news. There was a lot of new news. And
at once, basically.
And so instead of having multiple touch points of product releases, we thought, how cool would it be if we created a platform, which is Call of Duty Next, but created a platform so we can roll out our product messaging, invite our community in to be a part of this storytelling process on an annual basis. So that's what we've been doing for the last few years. And it allows us, Call of Duty Next as the platform, it allows us to sort of, rewrite the narrative every year if we need to, if we want to. And it's also about, entertaining our fans and our friends along the way. So not only is it, just the stuffy, people talking keynote. It is also like our creators that we're inviting into the conversation, and they're speaking authentically to their communities in real time when they're experiencing gameplay for the very first time. So it's a really magical experience, and it's evolved over the last few years, and it's had to.
Yeah, I mean, we've been thrilled to be a part of it every step of the way, and you can kind of see on this slide up here sort of your point of a next-gen launch needs a next-gen developmental approach. And so we had sort of, and you could talk about this, is those three pillars up there, sort of obviously you have your digital amplification of it, you have your experiential moment over the last few years, but then to your point earlier, that release is put in the hands of that community. It's 250 of these streamers in a room feeding out to their fans, so you have this sort of great harvest in a lot of ways of content consumption that feels very authentic to those people that are watching it.
Yeah, and so like that's a unique challenge too, because every year we've got to innovate, we've got to be different, we've got to differentiate ourselves in our marketing and our products. Certainly, when we think about Call of Duty Next, how did we differentiate ourselves this year, or last year I should say, 2024? And that was through a few different ways. Like, we picked up our show and went on the road, and we went to Washington, D.C. Why? Washington, D.C. is a major, plot, part of our plot in Black Ops 6. And, Black Ops is all about espionage and subterfuge. And what better place to be telling this story than Washington, D.C.? So we had a lot of fun with it. We, brought our creators from all around the world to D.C. Many of them had never seen our nation's capital, which was awesome. And, we built a world of Black Ops for our creators. And so not only did we focus on the broadcast, of course the broadcast is important. That's where we tell our story. That's where our creators have the ability to talk to their communities in real time, authentically, and get first ever hands-on. But it was all about these other experiences that we created and ancillary events that we created and opportunities for our creators to do what they do, to create content. So we had a Call of Duty wedding at our...
Can we talk about the wedding? Yeah.
Okay. Big hit. Highly recommend. Call of Duty wedding, and we had, white glove travel service. But it's also...
The procession of all of the creators.
A motorcade. Yeah, what better place to do a motorcade than in our nation's capital?
Right there, yes.
We took over the National Building Museum. Like, it was incredible. And in addition to all of that, it's also about creating these IRL moments that are very human, right? So content creators, their job is to create content. And what that does a lot of times is they're doing that by themselves or with a small group of people. But to be able to create moments where they have the interaction IRL with their peers, a lot of times, and these are verbatims, we're hearing this, they don't have those opportunities a lot of times. They don't have the opportunity to form a relationship IRL with some of their peers and some of their, the creators that they look up to, So I'm super passionate about that, too, and just helping to build the creator community within our world and add that human touch to it as well.
Yeah, well, we'll see the sizzle, but I think that's a good point at the end there, because you're creating a healthier, inclusive ecosystem around the game by putting it in their hands. And so I think that's just a very impactful way, an approach to do it. But if you want to play that tomorrow, we can. So you see your viewership stats just for that program alone.
Yeah. So, obviously, like I said, it's about, eyes on our broadcast. That's why we're doing this. We want to share these messages out. But what's interesting about what happened in 2024 versus other years is because we created all these ancillary moments and opportunities for content creation, it wasn't just one day's worth of conversation socially. It was 5 days worth of social conversation, and that's super important to us. It's also super important to our creators because now they have more things to say in the lead up to an event like this, which is, obviously going to drive their numbers and their subs, etc. All of this, all of Call of Duty Next, is in service to our beta, which is where the world gets first looks, first hands-on for our product every year. And so that's why we're doing this, is so that we can build up our beta. So you'll see here, we ended with the biggest beta ever. And, Call of Duty Next played a part in that, certainly. And so, like, okay, great numbers, number one, can't get better than that. How do we evolve, and what else happens after Next is done? What else happens after beta is done, right? Then we get into launch, and then we talk about, okay, how are we marketing the rest of our content that we have throughout the year, right? Live seasons, et cetera.
I think you buried the lead on the next slide, though. You set a Guinness World Record.
Oh, sorry.
You set a Guinness World Record there, DC, too.
That's true. We built the, now this is a very specific world record, but
it counts. It
does
still
count.
Counts.
We built the largest marionette based on a video game character, and got a Guinness World Record for our mega abomination. We lovingly call her Abby.
Love Abby. Okay, but so after all the awards aside, the one thing you mentioned is just like, how do you evolve and innovate? And a lot of times, I mean, if not blowing smoke, everybody wants to work with Call of Duty. There are so many people out there that want to be a part of this ecosystem. One big pillar of that is really curated IP partnerships with others that are in the market. And you could talk about the first one here, which was Netflix and Squid Game.
Yeah, so, after we launch a premium title every year, then we get into our, what I called earlier, our 365 content, right? It's always on. And so for our first season launch, which was in January this year, we partnered with Netflix on Squid Game 2. That was around the time that Squid Game 2 was launching. It was a partnership that made all the sense in the world to both of us, both Call of Duty and to Netflix. So what we did to celebrate this launch is we invited about 40 creators from around the world to New York City, because New York City has a Squid Game pop-up experience. And so we kind of took that over, closed it down for the day, got our creators first, early looks on hands-on, gave them the ability to create their content so that they could drop this news first to their communities at the same time, or in conjunction with us dropping the news as well. And again, it goes back to like them telling their story and their authentic voice to their communities is as important, if not more important, than us telling our product news.
Yeah, it's almost like Activision supports the rollout of the community, bringing it to market in many ways, right? Let's roll the sizzle. I couldn't narrate it.
We should have tried. That would have been fun.
Yeah, that would have been. One other IP that we kind of talked about that I think you kind of can throw in there, to your point about really thinking about nuanced ways. We were even having a conversation just now, and somebody was asking us about in-game integration moments and brands wanting to activate on that. We're just coming out of February with Teenage Ninja Turtles, is that right?
Yep.
So what was some of the scope around what the Turtles did?
Yeah, so, always we're mapping out the IP partnerships to speak to different audiences and, sort of tell that brand story through the lens of our game, which is interesting and fun in different ways. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles obviously means a lot to people that experienced Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles the first time around.
Yeah, it means a lot to me now, I could say. Yes.
And so to be able to sort of like marry both of those two experiences in a fun game with your friends, that's a dream come true for a lot of people. And being able to choose your own character and who you want to be. Do you want to be Donatello? Who do you want to be? And like all of those things make our game, like the nuances of being able to jump in and have our game never be stale, always new fun, new ways to experience, maybe the same game you've been playing for many years, but on a monthly basis or on a bi-monthly basis, you're experiencing it in different ways.
You can skip to the next slide, because I think this is sort of what we'll round out on this point. We've talked a lot about inclusion, and every fan and Activision has put, and Call of Duty specifically has put a ton of support behind that type of initiative. And you can, I think this group would really be interested to kind of hear, it's Women's History Month, we're coming off of International Women's Day, sort of what Activision and Call of Duty specifically are doing within these communities as well.
Yeah, I mean, this whole our game is about community. The whole reason we're here is about community. Yes, we're a first-person shooter game. Yes, we're a massive, global entertainment franchise. We're those things because of the community, our players. And especially today and in this month on, International Women's Day, we want to recognize our audience of women. And we're excited. You can actually go to the next slide. Yeah, so 25% of our player base is women. You might look at that and say, like, oh, that's a good number. Or you might look at it and say, is that good? I don't know. There's a lot of opportunity here, and we are embracing this opportunity. We want to, one, make sure that we're speaking to these 25%, which is 25% of a ton of players.
100 million active monthly players.
Is a ton of people.
Yes.
And so we want to make sure that we're speaking to them the right way to make sure that they're having fun in our game, they're feeling welcome, they don't feel this is a toxic environment. But what about the other 75%? Like, how else can we do better to engage more women to join in the fun? And so we're doing a lot of work. We had a trailer drop this morning.
Hot off the presses this morning.
You might not have seen it, but if you didn't catch it, we want to share an anthem that we did to support the women of Call of Duty.
Presses. Hot off the presses.
Hot off the presses. This one right here is doing so much work on these initiatives, and we couldn't be more proud. It's definitely a passion project, but it's also, more importantly, the right thing to do. It will drive business results, but it is also the right thing to do, as importantly. I think the last thing that I would say is all of this is in service, like I said before, to our community. And so creating these new ways to speak to not only existing community, but new players and making them feel welcome is totally what we're leaning into. And in doing so, I would be remiss if I didn't say also that extends to the partners that we choose to partner with. And opening up that aperture of who is partnering with Call of Duty and making sure that we're welcoming, if we're going to say that we're talking or we want to speak to more women, well, are we speaking to brands that speak to women authentically? And so we are hosting our first ever, late breaking news also, we're hosting our first ever Call of Duty Partner Summit on Tuesday here in town at Assembly House. I'd like to invite all of you here, if you would like to join. See me afterwards. I have a QR code. You can simply just add it to your calendar. We would like you to RSVP so that we know who you are when you come to the door. It's at 1 o'clock at Assembly House on Tuesday. What that means is that we're having the conversation. We're inviting more people in to build a relationship, to build partner relationships, and be better brands together.
And on that note, thank you so much, everybody. Please find us. We'd love to chat with you soon. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.